This is One-on-One. This is One-on-One, and this is Tony DeSare. And he is a singer, songwriter, pianist, and his new CD is called Piano.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in upstate New York, north of Albany, a little town called Hudson Falls, right on the Hudson River, about 7,000 people.
When did you get into music?
I got into music. I begged my parents for violin lessons in 4th grade when that's the first instrument you could take, and they said okay, so I started playing violin. I was always fascinated with the piano though, and when I was 10 years old, they got me a little Casio keyboard, then they got me a bigger keyboard, and then by the time I was 13, I was playing, I was obsessed with George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, and I spent the whole year learning that, and then didn't have a date all through high school, had no social life. But I kind of really developed my love for music and got into classic American songbook songs, by Cole Porter and Gershwin and Irving Berlin, and got into Frank Sinatra. So then by the time I graduated high school, I was performing at hotels and bars and things like that. And then I went to Ithaca College, and after graduating there, I thought I have to give New York a shot. Because
why?
Well, because it's the type of thing where I never pictured myself really in a music career until I actually found myself getting paid to do it, but I still never thought it was a reality. And I thought if I didn't move to New York and give it a shot, it would be something I would always regret. But if I went there and found there were 100 guys just like me and I couldn't get a job, then I would be fine going to medical school or something like that. And
you had to give it a shot.
I had to give it a shot, yeah.
What happened?
Well, I started this long, slow climb from, my first job was at the Marriott Marquis in Times Square, playing in a revolving lounge.
No, you weren't.
Yes.
It did, it was just moving.
Yeah, well, the outer
You weren't moving,
Yeah, I didn't move. I was playing with a band on the dance floor, and the outer section moved, and it was all these tourists from all over the world, and so we only saw one table for 15 minutes. I did this 5 nights a week for a couple of years, and what that means is every 20 minutes you're getting a new request for New York, New York. That's what it means.
Did you just say, hey, listen, I'm just paying my dues?
Well, I was just, at that point, I mean, I was from this
little... paying my bills.
Yeah, I mean, I was from a little small town in upstate New York. I was all of a sudden coming into Times Square every night to work. And from then I got cast in an off-Broadway show about Frank Sinatra's music. And then I started hanging out at places like the Friars Club in New York and playing piano bars and started to meet people. Bucky Pizzarelli, who I know you've had on.
Yeah, we just had sitting right there. Bucky was sitting right there. John Pizzarelli right there.
Well, Bucky played on my first demo, which got me my record deal in 2005, which then allowed me to start touring and playing jazz clubs in different cities. And then since then, I've been all over the world, from Australia to Hong Kong to Tokyo. Now mostly what I do is I'm a guest artist with symphony orchestras. I play little performing arts centers with my trio. And
what about this place?
And yes, I'll be here.
NJ Pack.
And NJ Pack. I played this place as well. It's
What's it like to play here?
Well, I'll tell you after tomorrow.
But with the idea of playing here.
Oh, well, yes, it's
has a reputation.
It is. I mean, it's amazing, all these places over the last 10 years that when I first moved to New York, I'd walk by a place like the Cafe Carlyle and just think, how.
The great Bobby Short was there for years, right?
And I would just think, how would I ever get myself in a position where I could play at this place, or when I worked by Birdland or Blue Note.
We just had the owner of Birdland sitting right there.
Oh, Gianni?
Who do we have? Gianni, right?
Gianni Valenti, yeah, good. He's very
Isn't
good.
Isn't it crazy? I hate to be. You're the one who's name dropping. I'm just telling you who was here. You're not doing it in a bad way.
Yeah.
I'm just realizing we've had good people here. So you go Birdland. You talk about Cafe Carlyle.
Yeah.
These are iconic places.
These are all iconic places that when I first moved here, I had no idea I would someday play. And NJ Pack is one of those places as well. I mean, I lived in New Jersey for about 7 years. And the idea of playing in this beautiful facility back then, was kind of way beyond the scope of what I was doing,
right.
and it's great to find myself in a position where I'm
Tell me
playing a
about
beautiful
the CD.
place.
Tell me about this.
Well, the CD it's called Piano,
right?
And the reason it's called Piano is because it's kind of an experimental project in that I started working on songs. I got my first acoustic piano a few years ago. I got a beautiful Yamaha Grand, and I started experimenting with multi-tracking the acoustic piano. So not only playing it standard, but also playing it, you know, like hitting the sides with my hands, plucking the strings, playing it like a guitar, and finding all these different sounds that I could get out of it, because I loved that it was raw and organic sounding and just a way to create some unique sound. So I challenged myself to do a whole album of this and make each song a different experience. And you know, so I've put out 3 records prior to this on Concord Records, and this one I wanted to be basically the same material I would have done. I do Cole Porter, I do Irving Berlin, there's many songs that I've written. I do even a Bon Jovi song.
You put Bon Jovi in there?
Yeah.
How does that fit in? You get all these great American, you know, standards, and then you say, yeah, I got Bon Jovi.
Well, because here, I mean, I really believe that there are these songs that, I mean, now, I mean, Bon Jovi, You Give Love a Bad Name has been around like 27 years now, something like that.
Right.
And you still hear it every day. And it's part of our culture, it's part of our shared consciousness. So, I mean, I've been incorporating these, what I call contemporary standards into my show. And it's because they're songs that do survive the translation in genre, can exist outside their original arrangement. And it's fun to add these new songs, you know, to actually say that there's songs being added since 1965 to the American Songbook. I mean, maybe not in as great as numbers as they used to be, but they're still there.
I'm curious about this. Because so much of your music comes from the Great American Songbook, comes from the Gershwins and Cole Porter and the standards.
Yeah.
The audience comes from where? Who are they?
Well, I think one of the interesting things about an audience for this music is there's a counterpart that grew up with this music that are now, you know,
For those of us who didn't but like it,
right?
How do we fit in?
Well, it's the type of thing, like, I discovered it when I was 15 years old, and there are people.
Do you think yourself you're born at the wrong time?
No, I don't think so.
I don't mean, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
by the question.
I understand for sure. I mean, and you know, certainly at a different time, my skills and the genre that I'm in probably would have been more mainstream.
But you don't care about that.
No, I mean, I'm thrilled that I get to do the music that I love to do, and I just love great songs. Whether it was written in 1922 or 1982 or 2002, if you have a really good melody and a good lyric, then I'm on board. You know?
That's good stuff. And by the way, you're going to be performing. Tell us where you're going to be performing.
Well, I'm kind of perpetually on tour.
No, I mean here.
Oh, here?
Right.
I'll be with the American Songbook series. It's tomorrow as we tape this.
We're taping on November the 1st. You'll be here.
I'll be here on the 2nd, doing 2 shows.
What are you actually going to do right after this when you walk over here to that
I
piano?
want to play a song that I wrote that's on my new CD. It's called the New Orleans Tango.
The New Orleans Tango.
Yeah.
A quick background to it.
Well, I always wanted to write a tango because I thought it was the most romantic dance 2 people could do. I mean, other than the Macarena, of course. But and then I
That's
thought
not in the standard Great American Songbook.
No, and then as I you know, I thought, well, how can I twist a tango? I was like, well, let's put some New Orleans piano, bluesy piano behind it, and set the whole thing in New Orleans.
You can do it?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Tony.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great to talk to you.
Good stuff.
It's called the New Orleans Tango, I said as she looked around. But we don't need any dance floor, all we need is the ground. She put her hand inside my hand, she followed me by my feet. It was just her and I now, and the rhythm of the street. And then I looked into her eyes as we listened to the beat. I could feel her body rise in the cool New Orleans heat. And as that Creole music cried from the river to the sea, we danced until the music died, breathless next to me. It's called the New Orleans Tango, I said as she looked around. I picked her up as she followed through the bayou back to town. Into her eyes as we listen to the beat, the black Louisiana skies shine their light on Bourbon Street. And as that Creole music cried from the river to the sea, we danced until the music died, breathless next to me.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJ PAC has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence, and by the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, in cooperation with NJTV and 13 for WNET. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJ PAC has been provided by Prudential Financial's Global Communications Department, PSE&G, the New Jersey Education Association, TD Bank, Josh S. Weston, Cone Resnick, and by the Fidelco Group. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. This program has been made possible in part by Franklin Templeton Investments.